Good evening, everyone. My name is Gunnar. This is Craft Beer Blab. I'm a cyclist and craft beer lover, and with me, as always, is my co-host Jonah Di Pasquale, who also runs a great show Thursday nights, Bike Chat. Give that a check out. And also below is our guest from OskarBlues, Jonathan Edwards. He says that you can call him John, or you could even call him Jed. All his work shirts, all his work name badges say Jed on it. So that's pretty cool. And also taking a seat is Dan Blomberg. And in the house we have Dan K. And let's see here. Who else do we have?
Tommy Crowder.
Tommy Crowder's in the house. Nice. Awesome.
VIP in the house. Hoosiers in the house. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Exactly. So there's been some good hot topics. I bet you got some things up your sleeve, Garnet.
I got a couple of things, and you know I don't want to rain on OskarBlues Parade, but Stone Brewing released a video. I think it was actually Friday, so it's actually a couple days old.
Yes.
But they released a really cool video that kind of explains the. I don't know if he's the owner or the CEO. I don't know, if they're a corporation. But basically, it's I believe his name is Greg Koch. He released this video on YouTube explaining why he's not selling out. And what's great about it is that he goes into kind of the mindset of his company and why he's doing it, and that he started part of it, and I'll quote him. He has these ideals of kind of rebelling against the man, and he believes that the world is better with a lot of great choices as opposed to the mass marketed commodity beers. So he's committed to not selling out. And I know, Jonah, you and I have discussed in the past how we've part of the American dream, and we're not brewers, and we're not big wigs or anything like that, but we look at it as, if somebody was to offer us $1 billion to take over Craft Beer Blab, I think we would probably sell out. At least, I would seriously consider it. Yeah, Jonas, weird. But here's the link to that YouTube video. Give it a check out, because it's great to see people with heart, and I know that OskarBlues as a company is very much in that same camp where they're not necessarily. I mean, obviously, if you can make money, there is that, but they have ideals, and they have they have morals that they kind of stick to, and part of that is not selling out.
Right.
What do you think there, Jonah?
Well, I think, two things. I mean, I feel that what happens a lot of times is you get a couple dudes together, they get a great idea. I'm gonna make let's brew some beer, whatever the case is gonna be, and they get this great idea, it goes to fruition. They start canning, whatever. They go to production. Everybody starts getting all pumped up on the fact that this is the greatest beer ever. Don't get me wrong. And then I think what ends up happening is they I don't necessarily say they run out of gas, but I think what happens is it does get to a certain point where if the beer is the beer, and it is what it is, when you pour gas onto a fire, it's just gonna kind of flare up and go away. And the point about for example, Dale's Pale Ale is that there's a lot more to the brand. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a lot more traction. There's a lot more. I guess sex appeal isn't really the word I'm looking for, but shelf appeal. I feel like
Right.
that. They're smart. They're clever. They have done a fantastic job capturing that je ne sais quoi of beer culture. Like I feel that there's not there really isn't an angle that a company like Dale's, for example, doesn't doesn't think about or hasn't played. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes when the companies that sort of run out of ideas, or there's no more tricks in their bag, I feel like they sort of need to resort to the bigger pockets, the bigger budgets, and the bigger spending to get in front of those consumers. And unfortunately, those may not necessarily be the eyeballs and the consumers that they want to be in front of. But I think to your point is that, let's face it. I mean, a lot of these companies look at, money is money. I mean, I think way back from the very first conversation about this, when we talked about, Ballast Point, getting bought out for just some like ludicrous amounts of money.
Right.
And that was Breckenridge Brewery. And then, I get a little concerned about that. I think that, it does, it definitely dilutes the waters a little bit. But I think that the reality of it is with the companies like Dale's that continues to stay true to the passion and the heart and the culture, of their core audience. I feel that I guess the one thing that comes to mind is Dale's Pale Ale is like the drunk cyclist of cycling. I don't know if you guys follow them. Really quick note. Did you see? I was reading a post right before I jumped online. They put up a picture of, like, a sweaty picture of, like, Lance Armstrong, and dude, people are like flipping out on him. Like, they're like, oh, what are you doing? This is stupid. Drunk cyclist, you guys idiots. You guys have just lost a follower. And it cracks me up because it's like, at the end of the day, it's like they had people following them that just didn't get it, right? It's like
Right.
It's like when you talk to people about Dale's Pale Ale, I literally have people go, oh my God, I had Dale's Pale Ale, the worst beer I've ever had. But like, at the end of the day, it's okay, because you know what? That's not a Dale's customer anyway. When you talk about something like Dan, who's like, oh my God, every year that's like the official beer that we use, for our canoe trip. So
Right.
I think all said, to answer your question, I think that money is certainly money, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if someone said, here's a couple cool for craft beer for a bite down, I probably wouldn't think twice about it. But I can definitely respect the companies that hold their ground and they hold their integrity, like Stone, for example. I think that's great. And I feel like even back to Dale's, I mean, they continue to reinvent themselves in clever ways. You got the ranch, you got just unbelievably awesome strategic partnerships with Nico Malelli on their bike team. He's a great guy, super awesome ambassador. They build skis, they build snowboards. I mean, it's like next thing you know, they're going to be building pogo sticks. So I don't know, man. It could happen. No, but in all seriousness, I think that I think the companies that are falling behind, that aren't able to stay within that slipstream, like, these are the core players in the now, like, renamed indie beer world or craft beer world. They gotta kind of, I guess you hate to say it, but sell out. I don't know.
Right. Well, and what was also interesting in that video is that Greg had mentioned something about that. So, like, the big beer companies, the giant corporations, they actually have a legal obligation to, what he said is a legal term, is maximize shareholder value. And that is something that they legally have to do. Which, when you think about it, obviously it makes sense. If I'm investing in some company, whether it's if I'm a small investor, I invest $1,000, or I'm a huge investor, I invest $500,000. I want that company to maximize my value. So that part of it makes sense. But then these beer companies are so large that is all that they're focused on. And so, right, Scanacci says return on investment. That's when that becomes the main focus, then you lose a lot of that, what we were talking about earlier, the passion, everything that kind of drives, and we relate it to smaller companies, but other larger breweries have, OskarBlues is one, for example. I mean, they're coast to coast, they're almost everywhere in the United States, and they still have a core values and system in place that keeps the culture of Oskar Blues, the integrity of it, intact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And you do hope that some of these other breweries that maybe they have sold out, we'll say OskarBlues for one, because or not OskarBlues, Ballast Point for one, because we mentioned them earlier. We hope that even with their corporate buyout, that they can still keep their identity and put out good beer. My fear is that they won't, but I'll give them the doubt for now. But then when it comes to time for me to go into a store and buy something, I'll look at OskarBlues more than I will at Ballast Point. I mean, unless it's something, if I super seriously want to try out their pineapple sculpin beer, then I'll do that. But Jonah's gonna go barf promo. He's not a fan of the fruit beers.
Not a fan of it. Not a fan of the pineapple, huh?
Oh, it's like a running joke. It all stems from the original pumpkin beer. That
pumpkin beers, yeah.
Many craft beer blabs ago, and that's a whole other story. We'll talk about that off the air. But yeah, I mean, right. I think that to your point though, is it gets back to ironically what we just talked about and I agree with you. Let's take one of the big boys. Let's take Anheuser-Busch, and they see this sours craze going on in the indie beer world. And
yeah.
You tweet. I mean, I literally almost fell over. When I saw the tweet, Bud Sour. Wait, one more time. Wait, Bud Sour.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dude, no way. I mean, Bud, whatever. Bud is Bud. It is what it is. I mean, it is an acquired taste, and there's probably some people in the audience that maybe like it. It is what it is. I've had plenty of Budweisers in my day, but I really will not go out of my way to drink something like that. And I think to your point about Bud Sours, I look at this as that's exactly what you're talking about. This is a company that's just reaching to try to get in front of that audience. And maybe a couple of people might try to go, oh my God, sours, this is the greatest thing ever. But you're thinking to yourself, how in the world is this even remotely close to the quality of what a sour should be, right?
Right.
The only silver lining I saw to that whole Bud Light sour thing is it might actually make Bud Light taste good.
Yeah. Exactly. See?
Right. Well, and I think that, like you said, is even what we were just talking about with Sculpin. I mean, Sculpin's fantastic. I think absolutely it's a great beer. I've had we did a tasting of the grapefruit, and I tried some habanero, which was interesting. But I don't know, man. It's like you get to a point where I don't know whether I'm getting old or crotchety, but it's just like stop.
Or both.
Yeah, it's like stop bullshitting. It's like I want a good quality beer. I don't need something that's massively fruity. I think for example, there's plenty of awesome beers in the lineup of what OskarBlues is that coconut. I get that. I love coconut. I would do that. I have no problem with coconut. I'd get my what are the Samoa cookies? I saw that, John. That was your post there the other day.
That was my night last night. Death by Coconut, Samoa's cookies.
Nice.
Did you see what Dan Cluin said? It said it's not that I don't like the taste of Bud Light; it's that I can't taste Bud Light.
Right. There's that
was something I posted a couple of weeks ago. When I was young and in college and started drinking beer, or prior to drinking beer, I didn't drink Bud Light. I didn't like Bud Light because I didn't like the taste of beer. Now I don't like Bud Light because I like the taste of beer.
Right. Exactly.
It's
yeah.
Well, it was like I had a good friend of mine. I went over his house the other night, just helping him with stuff, moving stuff into his garage. He's like, hey man, he's like, here, we'll hit you up with a beer. He throws me like a Bud Light. I'm like, damn, is there something wrong with your water? Is like I feel like I'm drinking yellow water. And he's laughing. He's like, oh man, that's good stuff. I'm like, good stuff. I go, whoa.
Yeah.
Top. So, good point there. So, I mean, it's. I think that what we're seeing, okay, I'm gonna make the call. I feel like what's happening right now in the craft beer world as we know it. I'm gonna call it the shake up, and I feel like it's very much like I'm a huge snowboarder. I feel like it's like the snowboarding industry back in the day. There were so many snowboards, this company, that company, whatever, and look where they're at now, right? So I feel like when you talk about like some of the brands that we patronize, Surly, Long Trail, a couple of the other ones that don't come to my mind. But anyway, I mean, just the companies that obviously stick out in your head, you go and you patronize a lot. They're gonna be there. They're gonna take take it to the next level. Continue to keep evolving their products, where everybody else is just gonna kind of keep reinventing pineapple beer and all this other stuff.
Right.
What's next, right?
Right. Now, Dan Blomberg had mentioned earlier, he's saying, when is Chub Burger coming to Minnesota?
Chub Burger.
Yeah,
Chub Burger.
I can't answer that question. we're expanding Chub Burger in Colorado right now. Okay. We're getting ready to open 2 more in downtown Denver.
They look fantastic.
They're amazing. It really is like one of the best burgers you'll ever have. But I want to see one in Connecticut before we see one in Minnesota. But
yeah,
that's just me.
Yeah, you need one where you live, right, before you get somewhere else.
It's a lot.
I can't even get them to ship me a box of burgers. I'll cook them myself. I can't even get them to do that.
Right? Come on, just send it over.
Yeah. Just send a patty from a girl. That's awesome. They probably won't taste the same. That's the problem. It's like you can't replicate In-N-Out Burger. I mean, In-N-Out Burger is In-N-Out Burger, right?
No, I've tried. You cannot replicate In-N-Out Burger, and you can't replicate Chub Burger. It just doesn't happen.
Exactly. Right. I would imagine it's probably the same, if not even better, because I see that's the problem with social media. You see that stuff like, damn it, like why is it not in my neighborhood?
Yeah. So, damn, I want that. Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the other thing with online and social media and stuff is that you see other people enjoying stuff, and it's like, wait, I didn't know they made burgers too. Holy cow, I want that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Chub Burger, which we have the original Chub Burger. We're getting ready to open 2 more in Denver, but we also have our original Homemade Liquids and Solids, which is a full menu, all-inclusive restaurant in right in Longmont, down the street from the brewery. And then we have Cycle Hops, which is our taqueria, craft beer bar, craft tequila bar, which also is the headquarters of our mountain bike company, Reeb Cycles.
Nice.
So the restaurant concepts just keep growing and growing.
Right. Well,
it basically comes down to the fact that Dale doesn't like to be bored.
Right. Well, he's got to have for everyone else.
He's got to have something going at every second. Yeah. Right. Whether it's a restaurant, new beer, mountain bike company, coffee roasting company, there's always something.
I know.
I love it too. I mean,
he is busy. It's awesome.
Yeah. Keeps us on our toes.
Right. It to me, it seems like, it seems like Dale is just like a reflection of me, because those are all things that I could see myself getting into. I mean, I already homebrew. Okay, let me start a restaurant. Let me start, if only I had the funds, but
Yeah. Well, and it's funny with OskarBlues, we actually started as a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
In Lyons, Colorado. Started brewing beer in the basement, which became, the original OskarBlues Brewery, Brewing Dales. And we went from this little brew pub in Lyons, Colorado that is still there to, selling beer in 49 states and international. So it's
nice.
We've grown a bit since 97.
Wait, what state are you missing? Alaska?
Montana.
What?
We've actually been in Alaska for quite a while.
How's Montana late on the show?
Yeah.
Basically, well, this is the story. If there's truth to it, I can't tell you one way or another, but this is the story I hear. is that Dale himself is from Alabama. And when he left Alabama after college and whatnot, and his plan was to head to Montana and become a fly fishing tour guide. And he never made it past Colorado.
Oh.
So because he was supposed to end up in Montana and that was his final destination, we're keeping that one for last. So
okay.
Up till a couple weeks ago, we were in 46 states. We just opened both Dakotas and Oklahoma.
Right.
So the only one left is Montana, and I'm sure there's going to be one hell of a party when we finally decide to open that state, which will more than likely be in the next month or two.
That sounds like it will be very well deserving of a celebration.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Holy cow.
Well, not that we really need that much of an excuse to have a party, but
Right. Exactly.
whatever excuse we can come up. What's
right.
that?
For us, Tuesday is Friday night at this point. So now we got all the reason. We've got you guys online. Hey, speaking of having a great time, folks. If you're just tuning in, you are watching Craft Beer Blab with your host Gunnar Soros. It is always a pleasure to be with you. You know where to find us Tuesday evenings 9 p.m. My name is Johnny Pasquale. I'm the co-host. Thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget, tell a little bird or share this out. We would really appreciate that. As I said, if you're into craft beer and all those great things, you can certainly come to the right place. Be sure to give Gunnar Soros a follow. It's at Anello Grande, or also myself. It's actually at Johnny Pasquale. It would be great to connect. We have a real treat. We have the from OskarBlues in the house, Jonathan Edwards, aka Jed, and he's been kind enough to sit through our hot topic segment. It kind of got a little bit kind of off course, but we are going to kind of shift the limelight back to talking about OskarBlues. And folks, if you've not had a chance to look them up, or if you've never had a chance to experience the taste of OskarBlues, please put that on your priority list and do so, because there are a number of just very amazingly delicious craft beers that they do offer that are wonderful. Of course, first and foremost, the Dale's Pale Ale, which obviously was my point of entry to their brand, but there's just so many more exciting beers to talk about. So, Gunnar, hot topics, can we button that down, or you want to kind of keep
I'd say we're pretty much done with that.
Okay, cool.
We do have...
Hey, Joan, are you wearing your Dale's socks tonight?
You know, it's funny you say that, my friend.
Uh-oh.
Actually, I'm not.
I
did. Here's the story. I did have them on, but actually, my kids threw up on them, and that's no bullshit aside. I had the sweet.
This is the second time in this beer blab that we've talked about baby puke.
Dude, it's just it happens. It's just one of those things. No, I literally
it happens.
The sweets. I got the sweet socks I scored at the Wyndham UCI World Cup. By the way, I was at one point the Dale's Pale Ale poster child. I had the hats. I had the trucker's hat. I had the Dale's Pale Ale Free Bird, like the Phoenix shirt. I had the socks. I've got more, that's the problem. Whenever you go to demos or places where Dale's is, you walk away with more swag. I had a Pinner koozie. I have a Dale's koozie. The one thing I didn't walk.
Well, we plastered that mountain with swag.
The one thing I didn't end up with was the cool bike that was hanging up on the display tent. I think that was yours.
That was my bike.
I didn't get that one.
Sorry, you're not getting my reeb, Joe.
I know. I tried.
Not happening.
I tried. So.
All you got to do is get a job with the company and wait 2 years.
All right.
You could be our inside man. You'll get us new jobs there.
Definitely.
There you go.
Definitely.
Now, Dan had another question earlier. He said, outside of Dale's Pale Ale, what's your next best-selling beer?
That I would say at this point right now, it's probably the new IPA. I would say for this year, since we've released the new IPA, the second selling beer has kind of varied depending on, last year we released Pinner, which is our session IPA, and that kind of blew up for a while. Right. And but as far as our beers that we've been carrying for a while, Mama's has always kind of been number 2. Mama's Little Yellow Pills, which is what I'm drinking right now. That's always kind of been number 2, and Old Chub, the Scotch Ale, being number 3.
I love that one.
But that's next on the agenda. Like I said, last year we released the Pinner Session IPA, and that kind of blew up and kind of became our number 2 for a while. And then, a few months ago we released the new Blue Dream IPA, and that's kind of quickly climbing the ranks. But I mean, Dale's itself is still, 50 to 60% of our business.
Right.
You look at overall sales of all the different SKUs that we have and all the different beers, and Dale's is way up, and then everything else kind of fills in that space below.
Nice.
Hey, Scanachi.
But I mean, Dale's is still number 1.
Jonathan, actually, Scanachi, a quick question. He said, "What kind of hops do you use in your new IPA?" Was the question.
It's all Australian hops. It's something that it's something we've never done before. We were our head brewer Tim was kind of looking for something new and different, and exploring options for hops that we haven't used, and we're newly available or readily available. So yeah, there's 5 different hops in the new IPA, all Australian. Galaxy being one of them, which
Nice.
Probably the most well-known of the 5. There's a little Vic Secret in there. There's some Topaz, but yeah, it's something new for us as far as the hop profiles and the flavor profiles, and a lot juicier, and you get a little bit more of that tropical fruit, mango, papaya kind of thing going on, which was those kind of hop profiles were something we really hadn't done too much with in the past.
Nice. No.
And it's we call it OskarBlues IPA. It doesn't have any fancy, funny, kitschy names like some of the other beers, but it picked up its own name along the way somehow, called Blue Dream. I think that's how a lot of people refer to it.
Was
now.
that mostly because of the can? You think? Or?
Well, the can's blue. It does say up on the neck of the can, it does say Blue Dream on it. And I think people couldn't believe that we would just name a beer OskarBlues IPA. So they started calling it Blue Dream. And it's kind of taken on its own animal as far as the name is concerned.
Well, it's a pretty looking can.
Yeah.
It is. I love the graphics on the can. I love the colors. I love the mountain range on it. It's probably one of my favorite packaging that we do right now.
Right. No, and I've had it before. It's a great,
and probably one of my favorite beers. Yeah.
Well, and Scanachi says bold.
I live in the Northeast, where the land of Heady Topper and Gandhi Bot and Sip of Sunshine, and when we first released that beer, it was, people were posting pictures on social media with the OskarBlues IPA sitting right next to a can of Gandhi Bot or Heady Topper or Sip of Sunshine and Treehouse, and people were kind of putting it right on that level, which I can't complain.
No, it's very complimentary.
And it's a beer you don't have to wait in line for.
Exactly.
You can just go to a package store and buy it.
Well, and it's available in 49 states. So, I mean, just about everyone can get it.
Exactly.
So it's that's something that Joni and I have talked about in the past, and we've tried to set up some beer trades and that type of thing. Is the availability, so you mentioned Heady Topper, for us in Minnesota, we can't get Heady Topper, so it's like, it's like the great white whale. We hear about it, we see pictures of it, and we think, we dream about it, and that would be so great. But then if something like OskarBlues IPA is being compared directly to that, I mean, not saying that it's going to taste the same, but if it's on that same level, something that's available, that is around for everyone to enjoy, how much better is that? I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a beer you don't have to drive to Vermont to get. You don't have to wait in line to get it. It's available in your package stores, and you're probably looking at a $8.99, $9.99, $10.99 6-pack, depending on what state you're in.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, but the flavor's there. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I work for the brewery. It's an incredible IPA. Our brewers really nailed it on the head with this one.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I recall trying it for the first time down at the Wyndham World Cup when you guys were sampling it, and I'd said the same thing. It was like, Gunnar was hilarious. It was like they had like the cans, which was like all stuff. It's like, here is a can. I was like, oh my god! It was like the very delicate egg that you didn't want to break. I brought it home, and my wife said, "What the hell's wrong with you?" She's like, "It's just a can of beer."
That was you had actually got to try it the same time that I did.
No, I was pumped.
That case that I brought up to Wyndham was the first case that I ever had in my hands. So I was trying it for the first time, same time you were.
Yeah, it was great. I was loving it. I mean, the only problem is I just wish there was like another case with it. But anyway.
Well, there was.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That was in the condo.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, what's going on here, Dan? Okay, looks like there's a liquor store just down the road that sells it. Excellent. Yeah, no, I mean, Dan, that is a great point. That is, as I said, when we talked about earlier about the marketing, or I just should say the placement and the access to the end user. And I feel like it's interesting where Gunnar was just saying you see some of these indie beers, these craft beers, they're so hip, they're so exclusive. Like, for example, I live in Rochester, New York. I have zero access to Surly Brewing, right? Gunnar can walk down the street and have armfuls of beer, So I think that it's going to be interesting to see, what happens. But I feel like if you have, the companies like Daniels that continually strategically, use distribution, as a key lever to get end users buying quality craft beer, they're going to do it, and it isn't necessarily like the exclusive the Surlys of the world or whatever are going to go away. They're not going to go away, but I think that the bell curve, without question, Dale's is just going to continue to walk away from them because the quality of their product is still spot on. They're there, and they have the right distribution, not mass distribution, but distribution enough so that you can go to your package, store and pick it up and not go, oh my God, I got to like Don was just saying, I got to drive to Vermont, I got to wait in line, whatever. I don't have time for that shit. It's like, I want good beer, I got to wait for it. It is what it is. There's enough quality, craft beers out there that we don't have to kill ourselves to enjoy them. So, hey, Chris, welcome.
Or you just find friends that are driving to Vermont and you make them get it for you and bring it back.
Or Gunnar can send me some cooking supplies.
Right. Yeah, I still have a box of cooking supplies to send.
Yes, I love it.
Hey, Chris Weeks, how's it going today?
What's going on, Gunnar, Jonah, Jonathan? Hope you all are well.
What's happening?
I'm good, man. First of all, I'm a big old Chub fan.
As am I.
So I definitely rock with that. I'm a couple hours, about 3 hours away from your Brevard spot. So I'm in
you're closer than I am.
So I'm in central North Carolina. But
Nice.
Wanted to touch on what you guys were talking about, availability, and a real life story is there's a brewer here there's a Trillion, as you guys know, being one of the big guys here in North Carolina. There are a Trillion brewers in North Carolina now. I think we literally hit the trillion mark.
Wow.
And, but the availability, I was at a bar the other night at a tap room, and they rolled out the Foothills Sexual Chocolate.
I heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, let me taste the Sexual Chocolate. And they said, no. there'll be no tasting the sexual chocolate. You're gonna have to buy it. Like, all right. I was like, so you want to develop trust out the gate, and lo and behold, I tasted. I mean, I ended up buying a pint for $10, and it really didn't. I didn't care for it. It was fair, but it didn't live up to the hype of this guy telling me that I couldn't taste it before I bought it. So, when you run into those hype situations, it becomes pretty aggravating, especially when you spend a good part of your life sipping good beer. You want to try to build a palate, and then you get to. So, if you guys haven't tried,
and the fact that they wouldn't let you taste it seems a little ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think I definitely think that was really based on the barkeeper's stupidity. But at the end of the day, now I will never purchase another quarter of an ounce of sexual chocolate. I'd wear a T-shirt because the chick with the afro is hot. But besides that, I'm good.
Yeah, the artwork is good, but yeah, and I think we've talked about this a little bit in the past too. Is that if the beer is just hype, or if the beer doesn't live up to what you're expecting, then there's kind of that letdown. And definitely, like in your case, you're not going to go back and buy more, and especially if it's at a premium price. I mean, if I'm spending $10 for a pint of something as opposed to $6 or even $5, or sometimes less during happy hour, if I'm spending almost double on something, I kind of expect that it's going to be something that is wonderful, that is great, that is going to be worth that extra money. And so if it doesn't meet that, then it's kind of a letdown. And on that same point, the first time I tried Ballast Point Sculpin, their regular Sculpin, I went into a store, and I think here it's like $15 for a 6-pack. So it's pricey. And I bought it, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna do an online beer review of this. I'm gonna try it out. And so I waited. We did it with a friend live on camera. Okay, first taste. And I'm like, I'm not getting very much aroma off of it. I get some hops, but I can't place, exactly what it is. And I take some sips, and it didn't live up to the price point or the hype that I heard about it. And it was kind of a letdown. Now, that said, it's not a bad beer. It's a good IPA. But for what I was expecting for the price and for the hype, it was like, I could have spent half as much and gotten, something. Well, I mean, you could spend $10 and get a 6-pack of OskarBlues. So I think, it's things like that will kind of, I don't know if it'll even out or what the market will say for that type of experience.
It'll correct itself, because what'll happen is the natural arrogance that comes along with this industry. When you get to the very first time that someone says, no, you can't even fucking taste it, you have to buy it. And then your taste buds are already depressed. They're like, this is some bullshit. And then you taste it, and you're like, I'm not thrilled. This wasn't what I was. Being undeniable. It's like, all right, well, that kicked my ass. You were right. I should have bought it. I shouldn't even have batted an eyelash. And then when that doesn't happen, then you're like, all right, tell everyone not to worry about sexual chocolate.
Right.
Well, I think you nailed it earlier, Chris. I mean, I think it's a buyer beware. I think when you take a brand like OskarBlues, I mean, number one, there isn't a social platform out there that they're not, on or, making their end user aware of it, whether it's, guerrilla marketing. I mean, very, very, mind you, very cleverly done. Accessibility, again, Chris, you kind of jumped in maybe a little bit after that Jonathan and I were having a conversation. There's a huge World Cup event on the East Coast that they sponsored last year, which I thought was a fantastic move. I would have to imagine that, based on the attendance of the event, there were over 30,000 plus people. This was probably a total of about a 5-ish day event. And I mean, I think that without question, their brand awareness for, dollars spent to have sponsorship and footprint there, versus people walking away, getting that, that warm fuzzy about the product. The samplings, were readily available. I feel like I don't think that there wasn't a product that they had accessible at that event that we weren't able to try. So I think that's another good point, to what you were saying. One of the other things, Gunnar, you'd mentioned it, and I think this is the other key thing is, Don DeBrita, one of our craft beer friends, he talked about this before. It is the saying of perception versus reality. Like if you go to buy a bomber, I don't know about you, but I'm not spending, $22 for, beer that supposedly was, brewed in like a tequila cast barrel or something like that. I mean, good Lord, for $22 for a bomber, I mean, for $22, you can get yourself a serious 4-pack of or even a 6-pack of really good, legit craft beer. But I think,
you can get yourself 2 6-packs.
At least, but I think that the reality of it for, the audience out here, Chris and Gunnar yourself, is, I'm like you. I mean, I will certainly try a product that I've, or a beer that I have not had before. This has been a great experience co-hosting the show with Gunnar. We've tried a number of beers that would, without question, not be part of my normal Quiver. But I think that when you look at a brand like OskarBlues, I mean, they're playing it. I don't necessarily say they're playing it safe. They definitely have a good variability, of offerings in their Quiver. But I still think it's a lot of what, number one, makes sense, or maybe it doesn't necessarily make sense out of the gate for kids who have tried it, like, Death by Coconut. I mean, I've had a couple of I looked at it, I was like, there's no way that I would ever try that beer, right? And then I had that conversation with a couple of my friends. They're like it's ridiculous. Like they said, you try it, you're just gonna be like, oh my god, this is fantastic. So I mean, they're good enough friends and colleagues that we share the same palate. So I feel like, if I could believe their word, I'm like, this is definitely a quality product. I'd go for it as well. So I think you're right, and I think that back to your point about the barkeep and not trying it. I would have been like, pound salt. There's no way I'm spending this money and not trying sexual chocolate. You can get bent. I mean, it's not happening. So.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that whole part of it is of not being able to try it just blows my mind. I mean, prior to working for OskarBlues, I ran craft beer bars for years, and there were occasions where we'd have a super limited, super specialty beer on tap. Dogfish 120, for example, where 99.9% of the time somebody comes in and wants to try a beer before they buy one. I'm going to give them a little bit in a glass. You get something like the 120, I'm not going to give you a sample, but if you want to try it for like $1, there were certain beers that we charged $1 for a sample because they're, it's a $400 keg of beer as opposed to a $150 keg of beer. I'll give you a taste for $1, but I'd rather have you try it first and pay $1 for a sample for a super limited or super expensive than force you to pay, $15 for a 12-ounce beer or $10 for a pint, and then have something you're not going to like and not enjoy. Because not only are you having a bad experience with the beer you're drinking, but that leaves a bad taste in your mouth for whatever bar you're in.
Right.
Well, the experience, the user experience is so important. People miss out on that, and I think that it becomes important that people can deliver that. And Jonah mentioned, when you guys did your event, the user experience being a dope experience, and then on top of it being branded by you guys, of course, that gives you the upper hand. Then also shout out to Jonah for talking about people having quivers. If you're not rocking with a quiver, you're not getting it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you got to have more than one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Seriously. Definitely the good thing about this show. We tried some interesting beers. So if you want to laugh and play, you can watch some replays. I don't know. Sours was an interesting episode. I don't know about that.
Sours was fun.
Although you did see I did actually I did post up a Southern Tier. You see that back burner barley wine that I did have the other day, by the way? It wasn't a sour, it was a barley wine. That was actually
that was barley wine, yeah.
That was a good one. I have to say, barley wine has become my new second go-to. It's good stuff. A little heavy, but
yeah, well, it's heavy, high ABV, but if you're relaxing for the night, hey, kick back and have a nice barley wine.
Seriously.
Yeah, nothing wrong.
So I'm drinking Red Brick out of Atlanta, and I'm drinking. My favorite that they normally put out is called a triple bagger, which is a Belgian strong, or either Belgian triple or Belgian strong. But tonight I have something called a hype whale, which is an imperial stout they do, and then they age it. Now again, when you talk about quirkiness, instead of aging it in bourbon barrels, what they do is they chop the barrel up and create staves and put it in and let it soak. Now, while they're explaining this to me, I'm thinking about splinters and how do you not choke to death on it? But being the adventurous guy, I tried it anyway, and it's good. I mean, it's
fiber.
Yeah,
fiber.
it's fiber.
Exactly.
I'll talk to you guys in the morning and let you know how it worked out. No, but it's it's 10 ABV. It has a good taste. It doesn't have the punch of a New Holland like the Dragon Milk Stout. It's a little more subtle, but it's good. So shout out to Red Brick Brewing and the hype whale.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I just posted a link to Red Brick Brewing. And I don't know events and availability. I would have to say Red Brick Brewing. Nice. We'll have to do some research and see if I can get that here in upstate. See, that's one of the problems. You find a good beer and you want to try it. I think that's the beauty of what we were talking about earlier with the beer exchange program and helping people out with cooking supplies apparently.
Right, yeah.
A lot of cooking going on in the kitchen, apparently. So.
No, yeah. Well, and you know what? That kind of brings me to a. It was going to be a hop topic, and then I kind of I forgot about it. But so we're talking about cooking supplies, and so we'll get into real cooking supplies. So there's this article that I just read today that is saying that because of. So in the past we talked about hops and hop farmers, and that it's actually kind of hard because of the varieties of hops and all that kind of stuff for hop farmers to keep up with demand, and that we're in this hop shortage. But that a lot of farmers are turning to grains to supply the demand for craft beer, and that there's actually a huge amount of local malters coming into play now. Here's a link to the article, and that there's a lot more grain farmers that are growing barley and getting into malting. Apparently, there's something like is there 60? At one time, there was only 5 malters in all of the United States, and now there's something like 36, and soon to be 50 more on top of that. So. In addition to the breweries, exploding, malters and grain farmers are exploding. So,
love it.
And yeah, thanks, Chris, for joining in. Be sure to come back next week.
Yeah, appreciate
enjoyed your comments and everything.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, Gunnar, we're cranking around the top of the hour, so let's try to keep it timely here. But just want to make sure we kind of stay on point. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, Jonah D. Pasquale, your co-host, Craft Beer Blab, Gunnar Soros, the host with the most. Every Tuesday nights, you folks know where to find Craft Beer Blab. Hey, don't forget, tell a friend, share this out. You know, any friends, followers that are into craft beer, this is the place to come. Like I said, don't forget, give Gunnar a follow on Twitter. It's actually at Anello Grande. Actually, myself on Twitter, it's actually at Jonah D. Pasquale. I also run a great show Thursday nights, Bike Chat, 9 p.m. Thursdays. Definitely want to check that out. We're going to have a very exciting guest this week. It is the Road Talk Show. I mean, God, I should be kicking myself in the ass for not knowing that for sure. It is the radio on bike, the Pedal Power Talk Show. Definitely want to check those guys out. They do a really cool job there as well. Gunnar, thanks so much for putting that. Tried sharing to Twitter, it didn't work for me, just FYI. Yeah, I think you can share, again, Dan, it's the last 30 seconds, but if for some reason that's not working, let us know, and we can try to figure that out from there. So, Gunnar, great guest. Good to have John on the show. Looks like John's, there you go. He's giving us
There he is.
a feeling tiles there. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
That's my attic entrance.
Nice.
Perfect.
I'm literally sitting in the middle of my hallway. I was in the kitchen earlier and the signal was shitty, so I moved.
Right.
I'm literally sitting in the middle of my hallway
Nice.
on the floor.
Works. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been great, and Gunnar, I don't know, take us to the bridge.
Take us to the bridge. Well, I'm not sure. Let's see. What else can we talk about? So we touched upon. So I know that we had kind of spoke about OskarBlues and that we're distributing into 49 states. Now, how? I know that you guys have a couple of breweries, right? You have North Carolina.
Well, we've got
Colorado?
there's the original brewery in Lyons, Colorado, which is super tiny, kind of our pilot brewery now. It's where we do some of the experimentation, trying out new styles, doing specialties, that kind of thing. The main brewery and our anti-corporate offices are in Longmont, Colorado. And then we opened up Brevard, North Carolina brewery a little over 3 years ago. That was December 12th, 2012. We started brewing in North Carolina. And we are getting set to open technically brewery number 4 in Austin, Texas.
Nice. Oh, nice.
Third week of April.
I love it.
Shooting for 420 right now, but we'll see if that date actually happens.
Great release date.
Goal date is 420.
Yeah.
So also, one of my favorites is the Ranch. Tell us about the Ranch, because that ties.
Well, we've got Ranch East and Ranch West now.
Oh, man.
Woohoo!
So the original Ranch, the Rebranch, which is our original, I guess you can call it a mountain bike park, is in Hendersonville, North Carolina, which is just down the road from Brevard where the brewery is. That's our 145-acre ranch, farm, whatever you want to call it. We've got, mountain bike trails that were already there, some that we've, kind of helped build up. We've got a pump track that we've built there.
Nice.
We've got a cabin out in the woods you can rent per night. We've turned the barn into a couple of apartments that you can rent, a couple of nights. And it's basically become a mountain bike destination facility,
Nice.
which,
Awesome.
I mean, that area in North Carolina with the Pisgah Forest, that's some of the best mountain biking on the East Coast already, which is one of the reasons we built the brewery there. Dale was already doing a lot of mountain biking down in that area. So much so that he left a bike in Brevard. So when he returned, he didn't have to bring the bike with him.
Nice.
So when it came time to build an East Coast brewery, he's like, well, my bike's already there. I already love the area. And everything else all the other pieces kind of fell into place as far as the facility and the water quality and all that other stuff. So, so that's Rebranch East. And then Rebranch West, I guess you can call it. We just built a couple of little pump tracks and whatnot on our farm that we already had out in Colorado.
Right. Nice.
So it was a farm that was originally Angus cattle and hops, and we essentially just built a pump track and some mountain bike trails in the middle of the farm. So
that's awesome. And
Awesome.
and another thing, real quick, another product that folks don't know that you guys do actually get involved with is you guys also make skis. Is that correct?
well, we don't make the skis.
Well,
the mountain bikes we make.
Okay.
That's the mountain bike company, Reeb.
Right. Correct.
We do make those. The skis themselves are actually made by Icelandic ski company, which is a small handmade ski company out in Colorado that kind of shares the same business philosophy as we do, you know, small and focused and, you know, keeping it real.
Awesome.
Right.
And every year for the past, I think this is year 4, we take one of their model skis that already exists and they do some custom graphics for us.
Sweet. Nice.
There you go.
So they do a small batch of the OskarBlues skis for us. And in turn, we have all the people from Icelandic Ski come out to the brewery, and we brew a beer called Icy Pale Ale
Nice.
with the Icelandic staff every year. And, you know, they all go home with a case or so for themselves. We send some out, you know, on draft for some special events and whatnot. And, you know, it's basically just a really hoppy, it's like a wheat IPA.
Nice.
You know, small batch of it every year to come out with the skis, and then we call it a day and get back into mountain bike season.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I need to get on that list.
Yeah.
Let's see. Erica had a question.
Yeah.
The trails, there is no fee to ride the trails at the. This is the Ranch East in North Carolina. No fee to ride the trails. The cabins, there are rental fees for the cabins. But it's reed.com.
Is there plans for the Colorado rebranch to get cabins or camping? Or
Rebranch West probably won't see cabins just because it's on what is essentially our private property already. I know they're working on a public access to the trails at the West Ranch.
Okay.
Right now it's still private. You know, there's a lot of insurance and liability involved to having a mountain bike trail on your own private property.
Right.
So as far as the West is concerned, the Colorado Ranch, it's still private property. I know they are working on some public access to some of the pump tracks, etc. But there probably won't be, you know, camping per se or cabins, etc. on the West Ranch. It'll be more, you know, drive down the road from Longmont or drive down the road from Boulder and ride for the day and then go home.
Right. Okay.
But,
Well, that's awesome. I have been trying to hint at doing like some sort of craft beer blab vacation or training camp, I guess you could say, where we all go down to Rebranch and, you know, let's rent out the cabins and go on mountain bikes, and then we could, you know.
hey, let me know when you want to do it. I'll meet you down there.
Nice. So we got to get it all set up.
Yeah.
It'll be good. I love it. That's awesome. Good.
Maybe we can let you use a few Reebs for the day.
There you go. See, yeah.
Loving that. It's awesome. Well, hey, folks, thank you so much to the folks that are tuning in, and a couple folks just jumped in. Hey, big shout out to Blab, a.k.a. Jason. Thanks for being there for us. And again, that just goes to show you how awesome Blab is. Even mid-stroke, they jump in and offer technical support. And by the way, for those of you that may be blabbing or looking for technical support, at Blab Stud. That is Jason with Team Blab. And again, big shout out to the Blab crew. They're awesome about supporting that beer.
Yeah.
Just one
Looks like,
clarification. One clarification on that, Jonah. All you have to do is type @help, and that will summon the Blab team.
Perfect.
Yep. If you type @help. Oh, Blab Stud just said it in the chat too.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Darren and Bickle, you come to the right place. Obviously, clearly a beer lover with the emphasis on beer in caps. We're here with John
Exactly.
Edwards with OskarBlues. Again, your host, Gunnar Soros. Again, doing a great job at the helm. And we're at the top of the hour, so we're just kind of butting things down before we go off the air. So if you do have any questions for OskarBlues, please feel free to fire them away in the next few minutes. Again, they are obviously again, prevalent on social media platforms. You can find them on Twitter, you can find them on Instagram, and of course, Facebook, and they have an awesome website as well.
Right. Well, and be sure to tune in next week. I'm going to throw up the link for that show. March 15th, we're going to have Artisan Brew Club, which is a craft beer package club, I think, that we'll be talking to. Brewing in the tropics. Should I even bother?
Why not?
That's actually a good question. Yeah. I say go for it. Do it, Darren.
My guess
I know
is
the heat.
My guess is the tropics is probably pretty close to sea level, so you don't have to worry about the water taking forever to boil. Just get on it.
Yeah. Jakarta. It might be worth it to are you talking about it in the at the homebrew level, like small 5-gallon batches? Okay. So if you go to northernbrewer.com, they have a temperature controller that then if you get like a small refrigerator, like a used one, you hook up your temperature controller in line with your refrigerator. You put the probe into your fermenting tank, your carboy or plastic bucket, whatever you're using. And then what that does is that will shut your refrigerator on and off to control the temperature in your fermentation chamber. So you're basically using your refrigerator as a fermentation chamber, and then this controller controls the temperature. So you set it at, let's say, 55 degrees for an ale. You set it at 55 degrees, and it'll maintain a constant 55 degrees for your 5-gallon batch, and that'll work out great. So if you're doing that, I mean, it's a little bit of money to invest to get the equipment. I think it's like $70 for the temperature controller, and then whatever it costs for a used refrigerator. But once you have that, you can control your temperature very precisely. I think as long as your probe is correct, that'll get you going. So yeah, don't worry about it being too hot as long as you have something to control the temperature. Up here in Minnesota, we actually have to use heaters for keeping our temps up high enough. So yeast types, I think you'll be fine if you just use ale yeast. If you want to go lower and do a lager yeast, then you probably have to keep it cooler. But ale yeast, I think they can ferment at a higher temperature. So I think like 55 degrees and higher. So yeah, do that. Excellent, great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good.
So I'm going to go ahead and take it off the air. We got the link for next week's show. Everybody check that out, and then we'll go into the after show, at least for a little while. I'm going to probably have to take off here in a little bit, but here we go.